Hello everyone, this is Ashish and welcome back to Art Podcast, and today we are having a fine discussion on the topic of full day routine for students. I came down to this topic paying attention towards the comments and the DMs that you guys have been sending me, and yes, I do read almost all of them. And then I did like a proper analysis, like I'm having a spreadsheet in front of me after compiling many of your questions and then grouping some of the questions, and then I found out that you guys are mainly asking me to talk about 4 to 5 different things, and all of these 4 to 5 different things revolve around full day routine for a student. Now students might be school going students, might be graduate students, might be undergraduate students, might be competitive examination aspirants, might be people who are having a job and are working towards competitive examinations or job interviews for other jobs where they have to balance studying along with their job. Now, the easiest way I can do it is share what I did, and that would include me being an undergraduate student, an engineering student in college, then turning into an engineering student who is side by side preparing for competitive examinations. At that time I was preparing for GATE examination. Then I had to take a drop year, so I went to Delhi and prepared for 1 year full time for competitive examinations like BARC, ISRO, GATE, while going through coaching classes. And then when I got into Bhabha Atomic Research Center as a scientific officer, I decided to continue my preparation to still prepare for entrance examination of Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, where I ended up securing All India rank of 4. Most of these studies that I'm going to discuss will be related or directed towards competitive examination, because that is a big part of my experience and also a big part of the demand of people who are subscribing to my channel, which you should do if you haven't already, because these kind of content keep on coming. A lot of things that I talk about is applicable in many different domains. So even if you are just a college student who wants to take your studies very seriously, I would say listen to me carefully, because you are going to learn a lot of things which I've learned after painful set of setbacks which I got because of following wrong procedures or techniques. I made a lot of mistakes which you can avoid. Now coming to the first point of discussion over here. How many hours should you study? Now this will, and I hate these kind of answers. Now, the main reason I started this YouTube channel is because when I used to ask questions like this, people used to give answers like this. Oh, it depends. Have you gotten those answers? It depends. Everything freaking depends on what nobody actually tells you about. So I don't want to say it depends. I just want to say it depends and then tell you what it depends on and exactly how many hours if this is your situation. All right. The other thing I don't want to do is tell you be yourself. I hate be yourself answers, and I hate it depends answers. If you give me that kind of answer in a real life scenario when I'm asking you what to do, I just might punch you in the face and get a prison time. All right, now moving forward, how many hours should you study? Taking the first example of the wide majority of my audience, when it comes to competitive examinations, 10 hours of study is considered to be decent. 16 hours, I've seen so many people preaching 16 hours still, even though my reel of just slamming everybody who says 16 hours got millions, like above 30 million views or something like that. Still, people got the guts to say that. It is abnormal. I've done it. It is not practically possible. It does not help you. You are not efficient when you're studying that much. You're basically hurting yourself. You might create a permanent damage in your body, which I avoided with a very slim clearance. If you don't know, I have tried that with 4 hours of sleep, and I did that for a complete month, and it train wrecked my entire body. I'm sure that if I did it even like 15 days more, that would have caused some severe problems. Now, I don't think you should aim to study 16 hours. And a lot of people who are aiming for that cannot be effective 16 hours. Now, when I say 10 hours, that is effective 10 hours. And oh, I forgot mentioning this because I know some people have already written like 10 comments down in the comment section saying that I was school, I was college, I was job. Man, when I say 10 hours, it is when you have a full day in your hands. It might be a Saturday, it might be a Sunday, it might be Christmas, it might be Holi, it might be Diwali, whatever it might be. And you're so, Holi and Diwali, I have to celebrate. No, you don't have to. You might want to, but you don't have to. So don't say you have to unless you have to. And I'm going to get to that as well. How to manage your social life and how to deal with all those things, and everything will be practical. Like I said, I don't want to give you it depends and be yourself answers. So a lot of things might not be like absolutely correct and freaking medically correct and politically correct, but I'm going to say things according to what students in this country might have to do when they're preparing for competitive examination along with their school, along with their college, or along with their job. It's not a lifestyle. It is not a way of living, but you might have to do that. And till what point your body just might be okay, and how to find out that limit. Those are the things that I want to discuss over here. Again, coming back to the point, how many hours should you aim to study? Because when you are creating a daily routine, that has to come with what are you aiming towards. So what I've done myself in a very healthy manner, which I found to be very sustainable, was 10 hours of effective study. And like I said, I shoot it for 16 hours. But when I actually started calculating of how many hours you can effectively study with you being able to retain whatever you have studied and you not losing motivation and interest in what you are studying, then it turned out to be 10 hours for me. Now it might be different for you, and I don't want to give you a depends answer, so I'll tell you how to calculate it. All right. But like I said, I'll tell you how to do it by showing you how I did it. So I was very enthusiastic and passionate about mechanical engineering when I got into college, and that's the whole reason why I chose mechanical engineering. Even though everybody else was telling me to take computer science engineering, I could have easily done that because my CGPA was very high after first 2 semesters, but I chose not to do that because I was very interested in mechanical engineering. I've talked about this multiple times, so I'm not going to drag you about it. But the point is, I was very passionate about it, but when I was doing the 16 hours and then I'm going to study more than everybody else, then what ended up happening is that I lost the interest and passion, and studying was just forcibly every time it was forced, and I was not enjoying it, and that way it was not sustainable at all. And that is another reason why you should not be studying or aiming to study those 16 hours. Now, when I decided to study for like effective 10 hours, this is the exact routine that I followed when I cracked Bhabha Atomic Research Center, when I cracked Indian Space Research Organization, 2 of the most difficult jobs in this country to get, and also 2 of the most stringent interviews when it comes to technical background and engineering. And I was studying not more than 10 hours, and I know that because I was calculating it. So at that time, I was following a method called Pomodoro technique, and I've talked about this many times. One of the most popular videos on my channel is on Pomodoro technique. I've made it in both Hindi and English. I'm not going to repeat the whole technique and the limitations and what you should do to apply it in your current situation, but all I'm going to say is that this whole technique is based on the idea that you lose your attention as time passes by, and you lose your attention as soon as 30 seconds. And that happens. Your brain is that creative, your brain is that fast, or your creativity is that versatile. You just think about different things. And the hardest thing in this world to do is to control your mind. But you can continuously practice to do that. And the method for that is that whenever you're distracted, you have to voluntarily bring your mind back to the point you are trying to focus at that point. I've made a video on concentration. I'm going to link it down in the description box. You can check it out later. But the main idea about Pomodoro technique is that you are constantly losing attention. And beyond certain amount of time, you kind of lost it entirely. And this technique, based on study, and this is not a new technique, this is, I think, somewhere in the 18th or the 19th century, developed in Italy for the first time, if I'm not wrong. I'm going to confirm it on the screen, obviously. Now, this technique establishes that 30 minutes is the mark beyond which your concentration is completely gone. Now, it is again like a curve, right? And beyond a certain point, there's not even a drop. This is the lowest your attention is ever going to be. Now, if you're going to just study for 30 minutes, you're not going to be achieving anything. You're not going to be learning anything. But this technique is not like just study for 30 minutes. It's like study for 30 minutes and then take a break. And again, I got a question like, when I take a break, I don't come back. Like, where do you go really? Because when you take a break, you're not supposed to go and roam around. The way that I did it is that I'll be sitting over there itself. Sometimes I used to listen to music. Sometimes I used to play a game, if there was a quick one, obviously. And more importantly, there would be an alarm that would ring after 5 minutes. So that is how you really do Pomodoro technique. You don't just get up and just go somewhere and roam around and talk to people. This break is for your mind to recover and get to a higher level of attention when you get back. So Pomodoro technique sessions of these like 30-minute sessions, 25-5, 25-5, these actually last for 2 hours. You will have 4 sessions, 25-5, and total that would become 2 hours. And after these 2 hours, you are going to have a 15-minute break. And in this 15-minute break, you are really free to roam around. You're free to touch your phone, scroll around, respond to messages, call back people, although people who are preparing for competitive examinations don't really have that much calls because nobody likes you, and also you don't have friends. I'm just kidding. No, you really don't have friends, man. If you're really preparing for competitive examinations, you might have, but then again, you're gonna lose them all. Okay, coming back from that depressive state. So you're actually studying for 2 hours. It's just that you're taking a minor break for 3 times. And those 3 breaks are just for you to enhance your attention. So you got an effective 2 hours minus 15 minutes as 105 minutes. And this is your effective time of how much you actually studied. And like that, after 15 minutes, you can come back and then again study for 2 hours, out of which only 105 minutes would be effective. So that's how Pomodoro technique is supposed to work. And if you are studying in sessions like this, then with experience, I can say that if you are having a full day, then you will be able to study for around 10 hours in a sane manner. And what you're going to learn is going to be retained by your mind. Now, your capacity right now might be very low. Some of your capacity is like straight up at 0. So you need to gradually build it up. So I would suggest that you start with 2 hours, get to 4 hours, get to 6 hours, and eventually get to 10 hours. Don't come on guys, take a breath, because I'm going to talk about the topic where you're having school, college, or occupation and how many hours you should be studying. Just bear with me for a few more minutes. So Pomodoro session is going to give you like 4 hours or so in first half, and then maybe 6 hours in the second half, and maybe a couple of sessions here and there, and that would make up in total of like 10 hours of effective studies. I first started using Pomodoro technique when I was preparing for BARC interview, and I specifically remember that my study hours, when I was able to invest full day towards my preparation, was ranging from 7 hours to 10 hours. So 10 hours was the maximum. I do remember occasionally reaching 11 hours or so, but mostly on an average 10 hours was maximum. And it might go like 7 to 8 hours. That's when you have a full day, and that would be a weekend or your national holidays. And guys, that brings me to a quick point. If you are really taking this seriously and investing some time to study towards something which you want a result in within a year, I would suggest to cut down from all of these activities that you would be doing in weekends, socializing, unfortunately. It is a hard truth, but this is how it's going to play out. Isolation is not a good thing, and that's why I said it's not a lifestyle. It is when you're preparing for these examinations, and you and I will be like very small set of people who actually understand the reality of how profession works in this country and what it takes for you to get into a good education or get a good job. And for this limited period of 1 year, hopefully just 1 year, I want you to have a laser focus. I want you to take your health very seriously, have very good diet, have workouts. I'm going to talk about that, and have dedicated podcast couple of episodes back of how you can manage your fitness with your career, but I'm going to put some light over here as well. So I want you to take care of your brain and your body, and that is why I brought in Pomodoro technique over here, so that you don't redline your engine and eventually burn out, which will neither give you a result nor a healthy body. But unfortunately, you will have to cut down to a lot of socializing. Going out with your friends has to happen. Otherwise, you will not be having enough time to dedicate towards this examination. And people who are putting half-hearted effort towards these competitive examinations, they're just lambs walking to get slaughtered, man. Seriously, because there are people who are going to do that maniac level effort towards this competitive examination, and I'm not saying you should do that too because eventually you don't really want an AIR-1, you just want a selection. And please keep that in your mind, because a lot of people get into this for the wrong reason, and those people who are playing it like a maniac, a high chance is that they are not going to make it either, and higher chance that they are going to wreck their body. So that is why I'm telling you not to go that route, like sleeping for 4 hours a night, man. Hell with that. Okay. Reminds me of bad memories. Now, so in a day when you are having a full day, you can invest somewhere around 10 hours in a way that you can run long, like a marathon. These competitive examinations are like a marathon. You have to prepare for like a year. In most of the cases, more in a lot of cases. So in this way, you can maintain it. And sometimes you can go easy and then rev it up as you get closer and closer to examination. That you'll have to find out how much syllabus is remaining, how much you have to cover, and that much research has to be invested, about which I have talked about in specific competitive examination strategy videos. I remember making one on GATE last year. Should be still available. Will give you a bigger picture or a closer look. Now, when you are having like 8 hours of occupation, I would say you can invest somewhere around 2 hours in the morning if you wake up early, and 2 hours in the evening, and somewhere around an hour somewhere in the middle of the day. If you're having a job, you may be able to do it during your lunch. If you're in school or college, you can find plenty of times in the middle. Don't bring those excuses and complaints to me. So talking to a lot of people who are having insane routines like shift duties and then again 1 hour of commute, things like that across the past 5 years. And based on my experiences and looking at people around me while I was preparing for competitive examinations, I was not the only one, neither obviously in coaching institute, nor obviously when I was in those government jobs. So based on all of these experiences, I can say that on a working day, you will be able to invest somewhere around 5 hours if you are utilizing every last second and really taking this examination seriously in a way that you have decided to wake up early in the morning. And then when you get back home from your job or your school or your college, you understand that this is where the hard part begins. What you did all day was just sustaining. And that is what you're doing. Let us say, for example, with your job, you need a job for your paycheck so that you sustain your life. But to improve your life, it starts after the after hour. So, or in the after hours. And now let us finally, I think I answered that question in a very detailed manner of how many hours you should be studying and what is effective hours that you're putting towards your studies. Now, finally, I'm going to get down to why you should wake up early in the morning. Now, I was the king of sleeping late at night, basically sleeping in early morning and then waking up later in the morning. I love that. I used to love that at least. Can't do it anymore. Don't like it anymore. But night is an awesome time, man, especially when you're living with your family maybe or people around you. At night, they're all asleep and you're having all the time on your own. I used to play video games all night, and that was awesome until I had to do something with my life. And when I had to, I found out that waking up early is the best way. One, because if you're, again, school, college, or job, you'll have to be somewhere at 9 o'clock, just taking an average. And I don't want you to wake up at 8:30 and be at whatever you need to be at 9 o'clock and just start your day in that momentum. Because in that way, what you really want to do, which is, let us say, study for this examination or prepare for a particular job, it has not even started till 90% of the day is gone. And then if you do it like that, then probably what you're going to do is that coming back from the work, you are going to maybe have your dinner, maybe spend some time here and there to recuperate and then get to studies, and probably going to study till like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock late night, right? This is the strategy of most of the people because it is easy. It is easy to just come back from your work, do that first. Okay, that is out of the way. Now I'm going to study. So what is actually happening is that your studies is secondary because you have already given your best towards your job or your college or your school. You have already given your 100% or your best part towards that. Now what is remaining is what is remaining. Now what is remaining is 20% of your battery in your body and exhausted mind from all the day of bullshit. So obviously your efficiency is at the rock bottom at this point, and you decided to put like 4 hours towards what you were trying to study for this competitive examination. And for obvious reason, that 4 hours is going to look like very close to like 2 hours. And you feel it. A lot of times you feel it. Like you sit down to study for an hour and you feel like, I did not get anything. Like, what the hell was I doing? Like, there's no efficiency. There's nothing in you. There's no energy. And that is the primary reason why I decided to start waking up early in the morning. When you wake up early in the morning, may it be workout, then study, or just study, whatever it might be, that gets your 100%. And I want the development part to get your primary focus, because sustenance part in the most parts or in most cases are going to be easy. Like if you are having a job, it is kind of like a routine now. and you're going to do almost the same thing every day, that does not require a lot of creativity. That does not require a lot of energy. Even then, at 9 o'clock, you are having plenty of energy. But the other thing is that if you have invested 2 hours early in the morning, then what happens is that your brain is in that state and it gives you a mental boost that you're moving towards something. There's a reason of what you're doing. And in most of the cases, what I've seen is that these people who wake up at 8:30 and get to their work or college at 9 and then start studying the basic, like studying for competitive examination, starts at 7 p.m. and then lasts till 12 a.m. Those are mostly the ones who are going to quit in a month. And how is that always happening? What a coincidence, right? And the reason why they lose motivation, the primary reason for you to lose motivation towards anything special that you're trying to do in your life is you understanding that it's not possible. And when does that happen? When you're studying, it is not like 100% efficient. You basically have been studying for 6 months for 5 hours every day after your work, and you add up and it turns out to be, it's not actually 5 hours, it's just 2 hours. So you kind of only studied as much as one would have in 3 months. And even if you last for like 6 months, most people are going to give up in 2 months or so because they understand that the progress that they have made is nothing. And it's down to simple maths at this point, that take out the efficiency and multiply it with the number of hours. In early morning, even if you are at just 80% efficiency, it is always going to be better than the 30% efficiency that you're getting at night. And the motivation part that I talked about just now is also very important, that basically your brain is thinking in a certain manner all day. All right, so I actually lost battery on my camera. Need to buy a new set of batteries, man. I've been delaying it way too much. I had to actually write down exactly what I was talking about before I went for a quick dinner, before I could get back to talking to you guys again, my favorite thing to do. Remember when I was saying that you can put in like an hour or two in the middle of the day, especially if you are like a student in engineering college? That happens. And I used to bunk classes, man. While I was an undergraduate student, while I was in the training school or BARC training school, I used to do it, and not very proud of it. I mean, actually I am. Wrote a book about it. So I used to bunk classes and put my time into the competitive examination. Like I said, it has to be the primary thing that you're doing. Everything else has to revolve around it. It did hurt me a lot in the long term or in the short term. It did hurt me a lot in the short term. I mean, it could have jeopardized my career as well. It was a risk. A lot of times it is a risk. But I'm just saying that you can invest an hour or so in the middle of the day. In a working day, you can take out like an hour or two, especially if you're like a college student. I've done that a lot. And you can do it, I know that. If not, I don't know what kind of weird college you're going, man. So you can definitely find out an hour or two in the middle of the day if you have to bunk class, and you can do that, especially when you're in your final year. Come on, man. The college is almost over. When are you going to bunk classes? When there are no classes? So you can find out an hour or two, and you are going to have a motivation or a momentum to find out an hour or two in the middle of the day if your preparation actually started earlier that day. So when you wake up at 8:30 and go to your school, college, or your job at 9, then you kind of have already forgotten what you were doing, and you don't have a kickstart, and you are waiting for this to end when your preparation starts, so that you can do that with the 20% of the battery that you're having remaining. But if you started your momentum, not only the first couple of hours that you invested early in the morning is going to be more efficient, you have a motivation and a momentum. For example, what I used to do is that study a concept early in the morning, and then throughout the day, I'm going to solve numericals related to that topic. whenever I could find out time. And sometimes the teacher is just boring and you're not going to understand anything anyways. So if you can sit in the back seat and just saying that you can do that couple of times, Ashwin did that too. I'm not saying that I did that. I'm just saying that you can do that. So that's how you put in like an hour or two in the middle of the day. Now, moving forward, if in case, what is the other case that is remaining? Workouts. So workouts, I've done both the routines. Now in the past couple of years until very recently, like a month or so, I was going for workouts early in the morning, like 40 to 45 minutes early in the morning. The major part when I was finalizing this book, I was actually working out early in the morning before even starting to work on this book. And that worked out well. It was a good routine. But while I was doing competitive examination preparation, most of the time I was not able to do it. Oh, I just realized you mostly find it beneficial to do an early morning workout when you're in college. For some reason. Maybe because college has a gym. And it always worked out like that. When I was in college and undergraduation, I used to go running early in the morning. And it helps out. But when I was in coaching institute, I specifically remember going to the gym at like 5 to 6 o'clock, or a lot of times 7 o'clock in the evening. It is not idle, I know that, but then again, I just stated like 15 minutes ago that this whole routine is not a lifestyle. So you can work out like in the evening a lot of times because your body is already tired, right? Your brain is tired, body not so much actually. In most of the cases, even if you're working all day unless it is not physical, I know that there are certain kind of work which is very physical, in which case you're physically drained and it's very difficult to work out in the evening, in which case you will have to move it to early morning. But if you're working in evening as a student, if you're having a desk job throughout the day, then your body is kind of not that tired. Your brain is heavily tired, right? So in that case, you can work out in the evening because your body is kind of okay, it will take it, but your brain will not. It's not very wise to prepare for exams or study in that time. The problem with working out in the evening is that your body goes to a fight or flight situation, and it will take around 3 hours for you to stabilize, and that fight and flight situation prevents you from falling asleep quickly. So if you're working out at 7, plan on going to bed at like 11, or if you're ending at 7, you're going to bed at 10. And still it might be sometimes difficult for you to fall asleep, but the benefit is that people who are preparing for competitive examinations are always sleep deprived, and I've not seen any student so far who would not just touch the bed and go to sleep instantly. that is a benefit of being an aspirant, a real aspirant, not the fake ones, man. Fake ones, stop listening right now. Okay, so I think that I covered everything when it comes to how many hours you should be studying and what your routine should look like. And I did it all on the basis of what I actually did and what worked for me, and especially what did not work for me. I've tried to highlight that as well. Now, moving to the next segment of this podcast, here's a question from Amarjeet G8. Hey Ashish, my questions are how you started your day for study and what was your mindset for the morning? Well, a giant aspect that I forgot about, so thank you Amajit for reminding me, was that I always used to have a to-do list, or TDL for short, for a particular day, decided and written down a night before. So I would always plan out, this is the amount of hours that I have tomorrow, and this is the amount of work that I have to do, and based on that, this is the amount of work that I think I can do, because I know how much time every set of these tasks are going to take approximately. So doing that quick math, I know that okay, tomorrow I'll be able to do 5 different tasks. and I'm having a to-do list, and then I'm having a to-do list according to priority. So I'm going to start attacking the to-do list from the top. Now, also, like I said, I always had few things fixed. Like in early morning, I'm having a very fresh mind, so I'm going to be dealing with concepts because that needs to be sunk deep in your mind and has to be absorbed very well. And across the day, I'm having like bits and pieces of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, and I'll have a previous year question bank folded in my pocket, and I'll start solving those questions whenever I could get time. When I would get back from my school or college or whatever part of my life I was, out, not school, I was not studying at all at school. When I would come back from college or work, I would be investing time in test series because that was a fine balance of, okay, my brain is so worked out right now that solving numericals is the best way, but throughout the day I don't have a PC. So now I have it in the evening, and test series is a great way to keep your attention towards that because it's half an hour it's an hour and a half test or 3 hours test. So you have no other option but to focus over there. Full length tests later on, I turned it into the time where most likely my examination is going to be, like 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock, or generally what examination. For example, ISRO examination I think was at 3:30 some weird time. So based on that, later test series turned out, but like subject wise test series and the initial part of the full length test series, I did it after my work. I remember coming back from my BARC training school and actually starting a full length test series in December or so in 2017. So I can vouch for it based on experiences that that's what I was doing. Now that also brings me to something else that I forgot to mention, which was very important about Pomodoro technique, is that this is a giant question from people who are following Pomodoro technique, that what do I do when I'm following a lecture which is an hour long or 2 hour long lecture which is live? How do I follow Pomodoro technique in that? What if I'm having a 3 hour long test series? How do I follow? Dude, do you have garbage filled in your mind or what? Because clearly you cannot follow Pomodoro technique in that point. And also a lot of people complain that, hey, I'm having a 25-minute session practice now. How I'm going to be preparing for examinations which are going to last 3 hours? Man, test series. So obviously you are not going to follow Pomodoro technique in attending like a live 3 hour class because it's live. You have to be there. We used to have 4 hour long classes in our coaching institute without break, and we used to sit over there. But the thing about test series and classes is that it's driven externally. When you're attending classes, someone else is talking and you're listening, and even if your attention is going out in 25 minutes or 30 minutes, you have to force yourself to pay attention over there at that point. Sometimes you have to do it. But when you're learning concept on your own and when you have the flexibility, I want you to be most efficient. And this is the way to be most efficient, the Pomodoro sessions. All right, my battery ran out again. And this time I used the time to not have my second dinner, but to order a set of batteries from Amazon. So we are never going to have this problem again. Now, because of this continuous, consistent, persistent problem, what we are going to do is just discuss few topics and skip few for another day. It also did seem like few other topics like distractions and loneliness that comes with such rigid routine, and a topic of side income along with studying if you're a student, just a student, all will be, it's much better to be covered in a completely different podcast. It's a giant topic in itself, and I don't want to rush it. Although I'm going to cover everything that we are trying to do with the study routine for the day. So we are going to discuss how to remain consistent throughout the day. Also, guys, if I'm missing out few points, I'm stressing extremely hard. I did the analysis and made the points, which is in front of me on a spreadsheet. But if I'm missing any points, please put it down in the comment section. I read them all. I'm going to compile them all and discuss it in some other day. But If I did everything right and I covered all your questions, then please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more content. All right. Now, uh, coming back to how to remain consistent throughout the day. Now, this is a giant topic in itself. What you're basically asking me is how to be consistent. But I'm not going to completely ignore this question, because that question is how to be consistent in a long term. But what I'm talking about right now is how to be consistent throughout the day. Now, this essentially is doable when you are having a good amount of energy. Believe me or not. If you are very physically fit and healthy, and you did not put garbage in your stomach in breakfast and lunch especially, then you will be able to have much more motivation and consistency throughout the day if you did otherwise. And this is something that I understood in my early days in my college itself, that multiple days, like at least 3 to 4 out of a week, my college mess gives something which is dipped in oil, like oil dripping all over it when it is on my plate. And whenever I ate something like that, then I'm super sleepy early in the morning. Like one of my most productive hours are now becoming one of my most sleepy hours. And I observed very specifically the same thing when I was getting PG food in Delhi. The exact same thing when I'm getting food in BARC training school mess. The same problem. Most of the Indian food are going to make you extremely lethargic. And that is why I incorporated oats in my diet, peanut butter and bread in my diet, sprouts in my diet, and I've made a complete video on diet. And I also discussed diet in good details. That's a muscle car. You can never hate on a muscle car. So in the last podcast where I discussed health along with your career, I did spend a good amount of time discussing the diet as well. So I'm not going to again get into the detail. But since this question have pop up again, what I'm going to say, your diet impacts your sleepiness a lot, which impacts your motivation, which impacts your progress, which again impacts your motivation. And that's a downward spiral you have to keep away from. So you are going to fix a huge amount of it, and I'm going to talk about other ways as well. But you're going to fix a huge amount of your consistency throughout the day by just controlling your breakfast and lunch. I don't really care about dinner. Just from the student's perspective, I don't really care about dinner, because students are not going to have trouble falling asleep anyways if you're working extremely hard. And if you're not, then what the hell, man? Get to it. When you will, you'll find out the same things. But breakfast and lunch, because after breakfast you'll need to study, and after lunch you'll need to study some way or the other. And especially on a day which you're having all by yourself for your studies. So avoid your mess food. Find out replacements based on whether it is based on what I've discussed, or follow other nutritionists, man, people who are actually having legit degrees in this field. Healthy things that will not be making you lethargic. And if you do that, you're going to find out your motivation much more bumped up. Another reason for you losing motivation throughout the day, and a lot of times not having motivation in the first place, is that you don't wake up early. That is another reason why I stressed so much about why you have to wake up early if you're a student and you're working rigorously towards a particular goal. It's that whenever you wake up 12 o'clock in the noon, you are not going to have enough motivation, because you know already half of the day is gone. Now, I know that you are going to elongate your night study till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock to make up, because now you're basically playing catch up. So you are having some particular set of tasks that you'd like to do, and at night you can't sleep anyways because you just woke up at 12 at noon. So might as well study at that time and feel less guilty. But waking up at 12 o'clock or late in the day, let's say 10 o'clock as well, and then going through your chores and then starting your studies like at 1 o'clock after lunch or before lunch, whatever it might be, is so much depressing, man. You know that. You have been there. If you have done that, you know that you don't have motivation because you already have a feeling that you have kind of lost the day. And that is because you did not wake up early. In the contrary, do this. Just wake up at 7 o'clock and on a Sunday and put a good amount of study. And before your breakfast at, let us say, 9 o'clock, you already have put in 2 hours of study, and see the motivation difference. So a lot of people who are complaining about losing motivation throughout the day, consistency throughout the day, they are not attacking the problems right. This is where the problem lies. And that is mostly on your routine and your diet. Fitness is also going to help you because if you are physically well, very strong, you have more energy, you will be able to find more energy throughout the day. All right, the third reason why you are losing consistency throughout the day or motivation, both are very interrelated, is that you don't have a direction. And the reason why you don't have a direction is because you don't have a to-do list. A to-do list is like a map that you follow to reach a place which you have never been to. And think about, if you want to reach to a place you have never been to, you can't be there without a map. So working towards your goals or your dreams without a direction is kind of like that. So I've talked about long-term planning, mid-level planning, and the short-term planning or a daily planning is your to-do list, and you have to have that if you want to have direction throughout the day, which will bring motivation throughout the day, which will bring consistency throughout the day. I used to have that every day. I still have that. In front of me is a whiteboard. There are some pieces of paper attached over there. You can't see that because it makes a very ugly set for a podcast, but I still have that every day, and that's the way I'm able to move towards a particular direction, every day, and so towards a particular direction every month, towards a particular direction for a year or a decade. So that's how you achieve small things and big things. All right. Finally, I'm going to end this podcast over here. I adore and admire your support. You have so much faith and trust on me, and I do go through each and every question you put, so feel free to put any. If I missed out a particular topic related to what I discussed over here, or suggest a topic which you would want to be discussed upon in the upcoming podcasts. And that's about it. I'm going to end this over here. My book, The Boy Who Did Not Sign, is available all across the world on various different platforms: audiobook, paperback, and hardcover. I encourage you to go ahead, give it a shot. There are a lot of good reviews. It's almost a year, so the book has reached a lot of people already. And if you don't trust me, go through the reviews of several hundreds of people who have talked so nicely about this book. They got to learn a lot, they got to laugh a lot, they got to maybe cry sometimes, because this is a emotional book every now and then. It's a funny book every now and then. It has got it all. It's a complete package. But if you don't trust those reviews either, because you have trust issues, you can go ahead and read the sample for free. You read 20 to 40 pages and you're going to be hooked. I dare you. And the worst case scenario, you got to listen to a guy for 20 pages talking about his experiences of being in nuclear program, pursuits of getting into the space program, an experience you might not have heard of or read of before. So worst case scenario that, best case scenario for me, you buy this book, and best case scenario for you, you read this book. So that's about it. I'm going to end this podcast over here. See you next time. Till then, bye.